I'd like to call to order the Town of McCandless Agenda Review Meeting, August 20th, 2018. We are going to flip-flop item 2 and 3, so Reach can be excused. He's done a little poorly. So we're going to go to review the town's second quarter financial report. All of council have had an opportunity to have this report and look over it. What kind of questions do you all have? I was looking at the state funding. It looks like that all comes in a little bit later. None of that's coming yet.
Usually starts rolling in around September.
Okay. Most things I think I kind of knew. Our snow and ice, is this, I mentioned in the last meeting about the $12,000 in auto parts. Is that what's got our budget up so much? Is that what this is down here? Under snow and ice services and charges?
That, no, that wouldn't be auto parts. Auto parts would fall under 200 supplies.
Do you know what that is? It's like 400% over budget.
Yeah, it's what, $440 versus 100 budget or something?
It says actual percentage of the budget. It says it's 440. That'd be.
Right, the actual expenditures to date are $444.20.
Oh, okay.
We budgeted 100, so.
It's in the, oh, I see.
It's a small dollar amount, large
Okay,
percentage.
okay, looks like 3%. Anyone else have any questions?
I appreciate the variance report. It's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Anyone else? Are there any questions from citizens about the second quarter financial report? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next we're going to review the tentative business meeting agenda. Invocation is by Councilman Mertz.
We'll see.
Okay. Move to accept the minutes, announcements, and then committee reports. We are very privileged to have a host of promotions from our police department. This is very exciting. And then oath of office for a new officer. Zoning committee, the first one will be about the barrel, to amend the zoning code. There was some,
Yeah, I think we're looking to table that, or to take it off until,
well, that's what I
Right,
wanted
but
to know.
we-
Do we want to totally take it off here, or do we want to table it?
I think you can just remove it completely. Because
Just remove it
the
completely?
revised ordinance is already kind of starting its way through the process, so
Okay.
we
Okay.
abandoned that first request.
Okay.
because it's on the planning council's committee's journal for, agenda for September 4th.
Okay, all right, so we'll delete
Right.
number 1 under zoning. Okay. Number 2 is for the Sunrise of McCandless. Any questions about that, comments?
We're waiting the dollar, we have a blank so far for the amount, our engineer has prepared an estimate for the in lieu of potential payment for, instead of sidewalks being constructed now, so that sidewalks could be constructed in a larger project. And the engineer for Sunrise is reviewing those numbers, especially against numbers that the Roche College has just recently received for their sidewalk, which would be likely more close than just a standard engineer's estimate. So when we have those numbers, where the engineers have settled in on that, we would fill in that blank for you.
do we, as a council, do we want to, I think the option is to either put in a sidewalk or give us money in lieu of a sidewalk. What do we want? Do they make that offer, or do we tell them what we want?
I had a concern, the reason we suggested them doing it is when it gets down to where the bridge will be, we want it to match up with where in our engineering, best engineering practice, where the bridge should be. We want it to match up, so we'd hate to have them put it in and then have to readjust it. So if we just do it all as one project, this could act as some seed money, so that was part of the reason of suggesting this.
And that specific reason, when Bruce is talking about a bridge, the larger project that has been talked about in a very conceptual form, this bridge is over Little Pine Creek, which is adjacent to a small sanitary station on Babcock Boulevardville, just past the North Park Lounge heading south on Babcock Boulevard. And the general reason then, another general reason is that this is a key item, this being connectivity and sidewalk installation, bike trails, bike paths and so forth, is that, as Bruce is saying, if we get very specific about this site, modifications might have to be made at perhaps even our expense. So it's probably, it seems prudent to pursue the in lieu of. It is certainly within our code and within certainly council's requirement that they can put it in. So it's just, we wanted to point these potential features and items to consider.
And this item would be kept out of the general budget and only used for this specifically?
That's exactly right. The Transportation District Fund has within the bond issue that those funds remain for capital projects of any nature throughout the town, as long as they're of a capital nature. So we're using that fund, have been for some years now, as a holding place for capital projects for this particular part of town within the Transportation District, which shows with the dotted lines on our map. And the middle, the two corridors in McKnight and Babcock.
So this money would only be used for sidewalks in this area?
Yes, ma'am.
That's my question, okay.
And when do we plan on starting that, to look at that bridge and begin these sidewalks?
We've been looking at getting some grants to do this, the whole entire project. There are a couple major ifs in getting a grant. One of the biggest holdups with this is the intersection of Corporate Drive and Babcock Boulevard, which ties back into Vincentian, which is another sidewalk that's on hold. In order to get them across, get people across Babcock, we need a signal, and we need a walk light at that signal. So we're looking at, we've already done a study to see if it's possible to get a signal there. We have to do a little more work on that in order to just make the determination if the signal can go there. Once we get everything in order, we can apply for a grant to do the study, I believe, and then during the study process, we can determine how the bridge should go in and how the rest of the sidewalk
And
will go in.
we're right in the middle of the comprehensive planning process. We finished the input gathering stage, and now we're in the stage where Pashik begins looking at the input we received and looks at the information about the priorities we identified. And this was one of them, and they've started looking at this. It would be good to have their input, which we're gonna get by spring of next year.
So there's really no guesses, this might be 3 years, 5 years?
Well, not that long, but
Minimum of 2, maybe 3. Would be
Does
best-
everyone know what we're talking about, putting this sidewalk in? Does everyone know where this is gonna be? Okay, okay.
I do have a question. So to understand this, the reason that this method of this development, meeting the obligation for the sidewalks in lieu of the sidewalks, is by virtue of it being in the transportation district, and we don't have this flexibility in other places where sidewalks maybe make less sense, but
It's influenced by the transportation district, which many years ago got us on the path of these two corridors, the Babcock corridor and particularly the McKnight corridor, are major north-south routes in this part of town, especially McKnight. And with all the development that has been approved along the Babcock corridor, Vincentian Collaborative Services has a big development that they put in adjacent to, across the street from Corporate Drive. And other developments along Babcock that LaRoche was wanted delayed, now they're putting their
Excuse me,
sidewalk
Toby,
in.
just to kind of help, I think the question is, can this happen elsewhere outside the transportation district?
Thank you, Counselor.
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
I'm sorry if I'm missing this.
Can it happen outside of the transportation district, or is this specific to being within the transportation district?
When you say it, make sure I
The
understand.
payments in lieu of the sidewalks.
Oh,
Is that something the
I'm
town
sorry,
does
that
elsewhere?
concept.
Yes.
Sure. I think it's particularly worthy here because of the idea that we started about 5 years ago with the planning commission that this corridor receive a sidewalk system from Corporate Drive all the way up to Kuma.
Okay.
That's been the main focus, and
I
some of
like
it was
this-
influenced by the
So I like this common sense approach to meeting the obligation of the developer to put the sidewalks in when it makes less sense to put the sidewalks in. This issue came up earlier in our council meetings and other developments, and it was indicated this wasn't available to us as a method of meeting that obligation. So I'm glad we're using it, fully supported.
Anyone else have any comments on that? Okay. Number 3 would be the subdivision, the Piper subdivision. It's a pretty simple lot revision. Number 4 would be the land development application for Seavest. And Greg, if you had anything on anything, of course, speak up. Number 5 would be to initiate a process to rezone the property on 131 Montclair.
I would like to make a statement before I make that motion next week, if that's okay with you. No,
Is that any contrary to any parliamentary procedure or anything? That's fine.
okay.
Okay, let me just put that on there so I remember that. So remember not to, well, you'll be making these motions.
Yeah,
so
but,
you'll just say, I'd like to speak to this
Yeah.
before we make the motion.
Before, yeah,
Okay.
and then I'll make the statement and then I'll make the motion.
Okay. Okay, that sounds fine.
So we're going to go ahead with this motion to hurt people for no reason. I'm not sure I still figure out why.
As our chairman of zoning, Greg can put it on here.
Oh, I know you can put things in.
If he makes the motion, there must be a second. If there is a second, of course, there will be comment, and then we will vote. If you're against it, you just vote no. If it doesn't have majority, then it fails. If it has majority, then it passes.
Oh, I don't know how it works. I was still trying
Okay.
to figure out why.
Well, I'm sure Greg would be glad to talk to you about that, and I'm sure he'll have his statements, the statement before we vote. Any other comments about this?
Actually, before I make the motion.
I mean, before you make the motion, yes, thank you. And then there'll be time for other councils to make their
Other
comments too.
statements and-
Right, exactly, and everyone else. Anything else on that? Okay, finance and personnel, we'll move to ratify the bills, to reappoint Ken Allhouse, to reappoint Dave Minor, these people to the EAC. And then we'll move to appoint one of the people from the, because we didn't have any applicants. Did you see, Bill, where we went and checked, looked back, and we had no one from Ward 7 at all, any floating applicants? That is the way that is supposed to work. If someone in Ward 7 wants to put an application now, then if in 2 years somebody resigns or moves, then, that person they wouldn't have to be watching the board to see when the 30 days is.
Or comes up for reelection.
Right, exactly.
Thank you for checking.
Sure. So we'll be appointing someone from Ward 3, which is where all of our turnout was.
Now, when, I'm doing this right, as usual.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, now when I do number 4,
Mhm.
is someone going to bring the name up, or am I bringing a name up? You
When
wanna do
I'm,
that?
what we've been doing is, as you know, is when I'm chairing the meetings as the vice chair of finance,
Right,
you've been
right,
handling
okay.
that. So you can put that, the name in that you like, and then if that gets the majority, then if it doesn't, then someone else will make a motion for
All right,
someone
that's what I
else.
need to know. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're just working our way through, trying to figure out how to do all this. I'm getting nods from my solicitor, that's good.
Put the stop
He
sign.
this is what he does when he's disagreeing with me. Public Works, this will be, moved to award a contract to a lowest responsible bidder. Number 2 would be, move to award a contract for, some, pipes. E is Recreation Committee, move for the town to apply for the fitness grant that we talked about before. And then finished business, new business to accept our town manager's resignation or retirement notification, I guess is the official word. Public comment, and then adjournment. Any questions about this from council? Okay, any questions about this item from the public?
I just have one question on the recreation item.
Okay.
I realize we're not voting on it, so that is subject to change. But is the location still out there by the soccer field? Is that where we contemplate putting it?
Apparently, as part of this grant, they will help you find a good location for it, but that's where we had the last one, and that's where we're anticipating putting this one.
So it remains to be seen where that.
It's not 100% sure,
I got
but
you.
that's kind of what we're thinking. I mean, if you have another idea that you think would be better utilized or would work better, then I think we'd be glad to look at
I
that.
took a look at it today. I thought it looks like a pretty good spot. It looks like there's room for it. And,
Yeah.
I was not there with a tape measure, but it was pretty good. Anyway, thank you for answering the question.
No other questions then? Okay. Move on to liaison reports. And we've had a report submitted to council, so we'll go down through here. Is there anything additional, Greg, from planning?
Well, in the planning commission for last month, it was items 2, on the zoning committee, it was items 2, 3, and 4. So those we've already had before us. And item 1 is going to be on the planning commission meeting on September 4th.
Okay.
That's the only thing I have on the planning commission.
How about zoning hearing?
The zoning hearing board has the gas station out at the get-go out at Perry Highway and,
Thursday, I think, right?
yeah, Thursday. Gavin, you're doing,
I'll be there, yep.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Anyone interested in listening to what's going on in the zoning hearing board about the Get-Go gas station? Thursday, here.
It's a special exception, so it's a gas station. So it's before the hearing.
Okay.
So I just came back at the right time
Okay.
to hear that.
Anything from, oh, Bill had a nice detailed report from the sanitary authority. Anything on top of that?
Just to note that that 537 plan that was presented to DEP and it's under review will result in a significant upgrade of the Pine Creek treatment plant. And it's a few years out, it's strategic in nature, but it will be of significant cost to the authority.
Okay. All right, keep us updated on that.
You bet.
The Franklin Park Ambulance Authority, you also had a good report in there.
Yeah, and to add to that, just to note that the strategic planning process does continue as they plan for the evolving healthcare marketplace. and how they fit into it, and also discussion about a possible joint meeting with the municipalities to discuss some revenue issues with the ambulance authority.
I saw the concerns about all the additional possible work
Yes.
that's coming to them.
That concludes my report.
Okay. Public library?
My report is in with the other reports, but I did like to draw your attention to the Library Foundation has released some funds. Although the fundraising will continue, they are ready to set the date for groundbreaking for the Learning Garden, which is very exciting. They've been working on this for a very long time. So we're ready to go now.
They had a very nice 50th anniversary this past week.
Right.
It was very nicely attended also. Anything else from the library?
No, that concludes one.
Okay. Anything, Steve, anything from North Hills Council of Governments?
In general, same stuff we talked about, cable contracts. And so I did talk to Toby about a potential additional money from grants that they weren't expecting. But I doubt that anything's come of that yet.
Okay. So they've applied for grants then?
No, we had additional money that we weren't expecting.
That we got?
We don't have. The COG has available.
Additional money out of
And
their pot.
we
Bonus.
may be able to absorb
Share,
some of that.
share. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Good for me.
Joint rec board, not much going on there. No?
Nothing going on there.
Yeah, okay. MIDA?
There's no activity at this point, nothing new since the last time, and there's no scheduled meeting.
Okay. Volunteer firefighter steering committee?
Haven't had a meeting, but we probably should schedule one for later November. So, good on that.
Okay. Mr. McKim, the North Pittsburgh Community Development Corporation?
No activity whatsoever, and there hasn't been for quite some time, but
Okay.
that's characteristic of how it's organized.
Okay, thank you. Heritage Center?
We had a meeting this past Wednesday and discussed the policy that we did, that was given to council. And since council had questions, kind of back on the drawing board again, and they're working on the policy, changing some of the wording and so on. Also, we're working on having programs, at least one a month, to bring people into the center. And hopefully this is all going to be presented in September. Because
Okay.
we're working on it, but we didn't wanna, bring it out because we're not finished with it yet.
Okay. I noticed in the minutes that it said that they were a little, maybe frustrated, my word, but were asking about some specific feedback from council. I saw
Well, I
that.
think one of the questions was, and Toby was there with me, and Bill, was what are they permitted to do? What is council expecting them to do? So we kind of tried to answer them the best that we could, and that's why they're rewording some of what they have there.
Okay. I thought it was worded pretty well. As you remember, my only addition was to just put the town mission, that anyone who
Right.
was there would, be compliant with the town mission as well as our diversity statement. But I thought.
Well, we discussed the fact, the food,
Yeah.
having food in,
Right.
and what they thought is possibly they'll buy a second tent. We already have one. If we bought a second one and someone wanted to come in and use the facility, then the two tents would be there. People wanted to have food, then it would be outside and not inside the building. Because there's so many things that could be ruined
No,
inside.
those were good ideas.
So, and also to pass along to anyone, public, right now they have a display of wedding
dresses?
gowns from many, many years ago. Very, very interesting, very nice display, so if anyone has any time to stop in and see them.
Yes, you mentioned the tents. Who's buying this?
The Heritage Center,
The Heritage Center's
yeah,
buying
we
the
already
tents.
have one, and they're just
Okay.
buying one other. By tent, just the top, not the whole.
I just asked because Caldwell Banker is having a Make-A-Wish fundraiser on I believe it was the 20th of October, and they were asking about if anybody had tents available. I know Mark Sabine is supposed to get a hold of me tomorrow, but maybe that would be something that they would be willing to lend out also.
Well, we don't have them yet.
No, you don't have it yet?
No.
Okay. I thought you said you just
It's
bought
just
it.
in our, just in our thinking right now.
Oh, okay, you didn't actually buy it yet?
No.
Okay.
There's one there now, it's
Yeah, they're
a
small.
pop-up.
It's-
There's a tent that Public Works might be able to help you with, it's a much sturdier one. It's a pop-up, it's gonna, we gotta be careful with that, because it was not an expensive tent, I think we got on sale at Lowe's for like a little over $100, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of those
Just,
cross-member,
yeah,
It served the purpose of the antique car day, though. It was very good. People were very happy that it was there because it was such a bright, sunny day. And, you know, a lot of them sat
I
under
was
it.
treated with TLC here, it'll last a while, but if you will do, that one's probably not a good candidate zone.
right, I hope they have more than that for the Make-A-Wish.
I have one question for Joanne. You mentioned that there was contemplation of scheduling various events over time at the Heritage Center, and I think that's a great idea. Were some of those thought to be revenue-generating events, or is it all?
Some will.
Okay.
Not all of them, but
Remains to
some
be
will.
seen. which
Right,
ones, yeah.
right. Depends on the program. And then a few of the people, which I thought was very nice, went around to look at some other small museums to bring back ideas and brought back brochures and things of that nature. So it kind of helped us with our way of thinking.
Good. Next, Community Day.
I don't have anything.
It's coming along very well. We're getting down to the wire again. I spoke to Marie today, and I think she said there are only 6 booths left. You know, so we have quite a few booths, and you know, we have the parade and so on and so forth. So I think it's coming along very well.
Okay. All right, Environmental Advisory Committee. Remind everyone that cleanup day is October 13th, 9:30 here for a little continental breakfast before you get your gloves and t-shirts. Be our first annual Litter Getter t-shirts. They're gonna be worth something, first one. Collectors, 9:30 in the morning. We'll meet for juicing and some pastries, and then head out about 10. It's a couple hours. We'll have some dirty roadsides that we're gonna go around and get and do some pickup. We've got the Key Club from North Allegheny is gonna be involved, and I'm working on trying to engage some of the churches too to help us out with our cleanup. We already talked about that. Oh, I think that's all that we have. Oh, plant a tree program. Don't forget, if you plant a tree, that we get 1 pound of stormwater remediation on our MS4 program from PADEP. So if you plant a tree, be sure and on the town website will tell you how to report that, and so we can get credit for that. That's all I have from the EAC. Personnel Board.
Nothing right now.
Okay, all right. You can see with all of our promotions that we're having that that's gonna be meeting pretty soon to. Are there anyone have any, council, any comments on that agenda item? Anything from any of the committees? Any citizen have any comments on the liaison committee reports? Okay. All right, my report and correspondence. I'd like to thank Public Works for putting the light shields on the Public Works garage lights. If you drive through there at night, you'll no longer be blinded.
Can't
So-
see them from your house anymore?
Yeah, LeGrand are the people that had the worst, and then they had the worst time. Mine are the ball lights. The ball lights are the ones that I get. And also, I'd like to remind everyone that we will be posting pretty soon all the committee positions that are coming up so please watch the website and be looking at the different committees that are gonna be available to see if you're interested in applying for some and participating in our committees. Another thing that I had talked about, I wanted to bounce off you all, this seemed like a good place if any, is I proposed the idea about having an appreciation get-together, whether it was a dinner or a maybe hors d'oeuvres, or just a time for all the volunteers that help the town so much, for all the committees, all the boards, to kind of get together, to kind of meet each other, and to understand what the other boards do. What do you think about us doing something like that?
How much?
Where would you plan having it?
I'm sorry?
Where would you plan to have it?
We would have to look and see. I thought we would plan it during a month when there's low on banquets, you know, you don't wanna do it around Christmas, you wanna do, you know. So we'd look around, we'd find a good deal. The town does the firefighters do several things. So, you know, we'd look around, we'd see what, you know, what was there, and see, you know, what days we could get, and do something to show a little appreciation for the people who volunteer a lot of their time. Is it okay for us to start thinking about looking at some of these numbers and looking at some times?
Should we discuss what numbers we're talking about, or?
Well, why don't we just research it, and then when they come back, we can see if we think that's too much or if we think that's okay.
So we don't wanna say, let's put a 10,000 or 20,000
We wouldn't
or
approve,
$186,000.
we wouldn't approve anything until we approved
Big
it.
party.
Nice party.
Yeah, yeah. When I was on the EAC at another place, they did annual appreciation and gave little things. This was one of the things that we got, just to show appreciation to the members that take their time. So I think we don't do anything for that, to show that we appreciate them. I think it'd be nice to do something. We'll just have to see what that something is. Okay. That's all I have. You have a copy of the town manager's report?
Proclamation.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I missed that. I received a proclamation from a suicide prevention, I can't remember the name now, I'm looking out here, I'm sorry, for Suicide Awareness Month. And you all have it in your pack, and of course we would put McCandless's name on it, and you've all read it. It's just to draw attention to the 41,000 people who die by suicide. I think that's very conservative numbers every year, and it's just to make September Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Is everybody all right with that? We just would read the proclamation and sign it, that would be all. We're good? Okay. Thank you, Toby, I'm sorry. I flew right past that. Now your town manager report.
Several items I'd like to point out. On item 4, I gave an update on the towing procedures that the police department asked to be put in place, which council did, and we had up till this morning 4 towers listed who are in the rotation to serve us when someone has a breakdown on a town road or state road anywhere in the town. And now a 5th has met all the criteria, and it's commendable that Mitchell's station, service station and repairs at Eganmore and 19. I think it's worth pointing out that they had they were storing vehicles behind a pretty old beat-up fence, and part of the criteria that we came up with was that the damaged cars be stored out of sight and out of public view, as we put it. And they went to the extent very rapidly and acted very quickly in order to be in this towing rotation, and have had a zoning permit granted for a fence, replacement fence, and it's one of the kind that has the green straps, and it'll disguise the really seriously damaged vehicles that we've been exposed to over the years for some time. It's very, very kind of them to do that, very fortuitous. So we have that, we can sign off on that.
May I ask, are some of those other cars, they only have 2 cars in there right now. Any of the other cars going in there?
The ones that, whatever will fit, and whatever to replace the area that they had before, and the worst damaged ones, one would think would be stored there, so.
So there'll still be many of them outside.
There's some out there, lesser damage, but they're older, and the car that's there currently, there have been others before it, pretty mangled up.
Now, that's not a paved area, correct?
It is not a
No,
paved
it's
area.
grass.
And we're not concerned about highly damaged cars leaking oil into the ground?
Well, that's something that they have to make sure the police are checking on. Good point.
Could we briefly go back to the proclamation issue? I just wanted to mention a couple of things without dwelling excessively on it, but just make sure it's corrected. The last whereas clause, it's contemplating that the mayor, if it's issued under the mayor, I would think this would be issued under council, or town council, or something like that.
I thought we could say, we, the McCandless Council.
Yeah, I agree with
That's what I
that.
put
This
in
is
there.
just a general,
Yeah, I just want to make sure it wasn't inadvertently get through with something we didn't want.
we have a new mayor?
No, not as far as I know.
And under here where it said
Yeah.
municipality, state, McCandless, PA. Did you see anything else? I did. Write
Well,
that
there's,
down.
now therefore, there's an I there and a mayor, but somebody should just carefully read it, that's all.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it
Yeah,
right
this
here.
was a sample given to
Oh,
us.
and I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we'll dress it up.
Right.
Item 5E, I'd like to point out a particular trolley court detention basin. We have these 6 projects that are all within the same vicinity. The area that, it's really serendipity that we were focusing on this to begin with, and then was significant flooding. We've gone through all that, so these are the action items that are, some are directly related, in fact, the 5 of them are directly related and have been either modified or initiatives being taken for projects in the Highland Valley area. And a trolley court detention basin is under contract, and the contractor got his notice to proceed Thursday. We stopped by the office today, and he is going to proceed next week. So this is moving on a great track to get this work done, because on the heels of that work will be other work that will take place in that valley. The next project would be the Iroquois storm sewer relocation project. That water is aimed at 2 of the houses, and it's going to be redirected. The pipe was put in back in the early 60s, and so now that pipe is going to be relayed, and it'll be re-aimed so it flows into the stream in a much better way. The stream bank restoration project is well underway. We should be just days away now from getting the conservation district's permit. But again, the primary one right now, trolley court's ready to go, and the others should follow. Mr. Birch, you asked last month about Harmony Drive, so that we hunkered down with a significant staff meeting, and that work will be able to take place as soon as the trolley court basin starts. We'll be able to time that work with our Public Works Department so that they can go right at it and start doing that drainage. And it's going to take a while. There's a significant amount of pipe, and it had to drain somewhere, and that's going to be the trolley court detention basin, which we'll be able to get launched here. So good news on all those fronts and all those projects. Let me skip over the 4th item. The 3rd one is the West Little Pine Creek Stream Bank Restoration Demonstration Project. In meeting with the property owner, who has talked to the town council and me over the years, John Andre, Jim Betterly, who was pinch hitting for Mark Sabina, and I met with John a few weeks ago, and to see what the current status is. He has slumping in his backyard. It's indicative of this entire stream length, this part of town, in different places. So I took pictures, sent them to Andy Banfield, our stormwater engineer, the hydrologist, and he thought it was a fantastic idea to use Mr. Andre's property to help solve this specific problem now. And since we have this already positioned in our 2020 pollution reduction plan program, this will be a great demo, so folks upstream and downstream can say, whoa, look at what happened on John's property. And so, just want to make sure council is aware that I'd like to do that. We have the funding, we have some extra money that we had budgeted. We didn't, it was $150,000 budgeted for a stormwater maintenance program, facility maintenance program, and we're spending just under $113,000, so we have some funds there. Well, this project won't, this little demonstration project won't cost anywhere near that, but if I have any kind of numbers that look, we run a follow-up, of course I'll report back, but otherwise I'd like us to do that. I think it would be a great demo. And junior council person program, council voted on this and launched it, put it in place, and then I tried to capture what council had discussed, what had been presented by a young student who brought her proposal in, which she had based on Franklin Park's model, and talked with, as I put in my report, Dr. Shear from North Allegheny and Amy Steele from Northland, both of whom their entities are involved in similar programs. So I tried to capture everything in a one-page document that I gave you as a draft, and if you let me know if you think it's ready to go, we can launch take a 30-day notice up for the students up at the school on our website, and then be ready to conduct interviews to get the student on board in the October timeframe this year. If you proceed with this and then we keep it going, then next year the students typically are interviewed at the end of their sophomore and junior years as they proceed to their junior and senior years. So they're given a chance to then be prepared to sit with you in September rather than October. I worded it so this particular year we should be able to get this person on board in October.
Any comments about, or any changes that you wanted to see in this?
So will we advertise this as soon as they start back to school?
We'll put it on our website if you're okay with this tomorrow, and then the notice will go up at the schools on Thursday, I think is when school starts.
Yeah, that's
Good. Okay.
Any changes? Everyone like this?
I think it looks
Good to me.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty good too. Anything else?
That's all about the specifics that I wanted to point out.
Okay, all right.
And not that it's even necessarily our project, but since we're talking about road projects starting beginning, is everybody aware Rochester's open finally?
Yes,
Yes,
it
we
is.
would
Right.
we put that on Savvy Citizen and
Okay.
Makes it a lot
anywhere
more
else on our
convenient.
website.
I came in today that way. Not sure they could have done a little bit better work on the dip on the McCandless side, but
I think they still have work to do along the sides too.
it's
A follow-up to that, unless PennDOT changes their plan, they had indicated, we in fact got a mailing from PennDOT several months ago, asking us about how far the town property extended at Wall Park for purpose of rights-of-way. This I think is a temporary fix. I think there's going to be a more significant buttressing of some of that work and potentially more work on those dips. PennDOT does have plans to do a more complete job. This was to get things
moving.
Okay.
so people could, that's a pretty busy road.
Any comments from council on the town manager's report? Any questions?
Good report, very thorough.
Any from the community? Any comments about the town manager's report? Okay. Town attorney, you have a report.
Ms. Kakashi, a real quick question on the slowing up. On the Savvy Citizen, that's been reported on a couple different times, and the observations here in this report are that is there a trend line on the number of people signing up for Savvy Citizens, or is it sort of remained sort of stable?
Steady growth.
Steady growth, there is growth though.
And if I may, Richland Township, which was the prototype After a year, they had about 350 folks that signed up. This was coming from Savvy Citizen when they courted us to do this. And we've been at this for just a little over a year. And there's 1,839 of users, of which 966 say they are town residents. And Savvy also, it may sound like a nominal amount of money. It's $200 that they knocked off our bill because they have a policy that if they get a referral and say, well, we like McCandless, a Savvy Citizen, how do we get that? We get a 10% discount.
Are they or anyone else, when I say they, I mean Savvy Citizens, encouraging people to sign up, or is there an actual affirmative work being done to generate signups?
We had a large campaign. I know the council president has mentioned it just about every chance you get.
I try.
And we had the signage. We still have a few of the signs up out here at the parks and so forth, encouraging people. Periodically on our McMail, reminding people, hey, don't forget about Savvy. John Bajarski did a very nice job on our town crier that he drafted here. It's gone to print. It'll be out any day now. And the back page says, here's how we try to keep you informed. It lists all of our 5 or 6 forms of media that we've now grown to, including Savvy.
Anything
Thanks.
else? Anything else?
No, I mean, I use it, I like it, I think it's a useful
Me too.
device.
I did submit the town attorney's report. Hopefully that format and kind of timing is working for everybody. Obviously, it's all, mostly all privileged items, so if there's any questions, we would go into executive session to discuss, but there's nothing I need to address council with.
All right, if council doesn't have any more statements or questions, and I've asked for public comment after each item on the agenda, then we are, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, we adjourn.